That's Shedeur and Snoop Huntley, who was vocal after the game, saying that he was rooting for, after the Ravens game, saying that he was rooting for the Cleveland Browns and Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, he spent a cup of coffee in camp with the Cleveland Browns. Then he started for the Ravens back on Saturday. Ravens won that game 41-24. Ravens kept themselves alive, and I'm happy to be winning that football game. So I had this. I want to know, did Shedeur secure the job for 2026? I want to hear more from Shedeur, because if you're going to secure the job, it's not just about some of the advanced metrics and the advanced numbers. You got to be able to lead. And is this going to be enough time to establish leadership? He talks about the winning culture Shedeur does in that locker room.
In the building and everything, we've been pretty consistent with what we've been doing. The only difference is now we got the result we were supposed to get, So I don't think the difference between a win and loss is a couple of plays. It wasn't about how you're going about your business, how you're doing everything. Everybody's going about their business the same way. Everybody's extremely locked in, extremely focused on what they got to do. But today we just got the result we was looking for.
So I'll come right out and tell you, I thought he did he went a long way yesterday, because I said, man, he's got to win one or two of these games to put them in a draft position where they do not want to be moving up. Now, if I was willing to keep an open mind last week and say, listen, I'm not going to plant my flag over this, so I'm going to do it again this week and say, I still got a whole college football playoff. Now, if Mendoza or Moore play to some obscene level that makes me want to trade up to go after them, it's going to be hard for them to do that. I will admit that to everybody.
Well, yeah,
it's going to be very
played
hard.
Their way out of that.
Yes, it's going to be very hard for me to want to give up, because there's no doubt that they have glaring needs, and they have a lot of them, which is, again, some of the conversations that we need to be having about Andrew Berry here over the next week before we get ready for Sunday or Monday, and whether or not we're talking about a new coach and maybe a new general manager or any of the other stuff. Like, we got to have these conversations, because I think it comes down to trust. It's not about what they've done. It's about what you think they're going to do. And if you are just there at 6, well, the guys who say, we want an offensive lineman, you can very sure as hell get yourself an offensive lineman now at 6. But Shedeur's got to play well enough and has shown enough to be like, all right, he can be my guy for 2026 and dare compete for it, because you're still looking at a veteran somewhere. You got Deshaun still in the quarterback room, where Mary Kay has been adamant they are not moving on from him just yet. You have Shedeur. I don't know what you're going to do with Dylan Gabriel. I have no idea about that. So I'm just going to put him up there, and if he gathers dust, and we'll talk about him at another point.
Well, but Dylan's nursing a shoulder anyway, Ken.
Did this?
Saw that on the injury report on Friday.
Which I didn't see it immediately, and I did have that thought. I go, they're not, never mind. You know what? I'm not even gonna question it, because if you throw it out there in the ether, then people are gonna take it and run.
I did see a preliminary injury report, and it did say questionable with potential booze.
Okay. I knew you knew where I was going with it, and you decided to take it there, and that's what I appreciate about you.
So what a crazy game, because the first couple of possessions, really into the third possession, he had these commanding throws. I mean, Tony Romo was talking about it. The 2 to Jerry Jeudy. I mean, Jerry Jeudy kind of.
How was Romo, by the way?
Like that was the first Browns game and last Browns game he'll be doing this year.
I figured, but go ahead.
When he talked about Cam Robinson. Oh, this was a big trade. This was a big trade for the Browns.
No, he didn't.
I think he was a name and a number on a chart that he looked at.
Has there been a bigger fall from grace as a color analyst?
Tony's great if the game is close in the final 4 minutes, and like in the final 4 minutes, he was good. He kind of woke him up a little bit, or whatever he was doing at halftime. It woke him up.
I'll go back and watch. I don't mean to be mean-spirited. I've always kind of liked Tony Romo.
He didn't know the team. He knew Pittsburgh, obviously, but of course Pittsburgh had kind of a bunch of guys out.
Okay. It's weird. We've gotten into it about Adam Archuleta and stuff and how nasty he's been. I'm like, well, clearly he watches the games and he watches and tries to do a good job.
Yeah,
but
he's done a bunch of Browns games.
Go ahead. You were talking. I bogged it down.
So it was an awesome start. I don't know what. There's always this weird debate online. Well, it was the scripted play. Okay, so he ran the scripted plays and he ran them well, and he was throwing confidently. Remember, right at kickoff, like the weather conditions. They looked way worse at the stadium than they were outside my house.
They were not fun.
They were not fun. It didn't look like it was conducive to throwing the football, and yet his first 6 passes were all boom, 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 boom. And he stood there confidently. I thought it was the only time the offensive line protected him was early in the game, and maybe that was more about the scripted plays than his play. Like I would actually say the scripting of the plays is probably why the offensive line held up early on.
What makes this game so significant is that you find yourself, and I'm serious here, guys, you find yourself in a spot where you go, is he unplayable?
No.
Is he?
Oh my God.
And
no.
that's the exact point. I think for a lot of Browns fans out there,
he fits right in.
You can't say he's unplayable. Yeah. I can't say he's going to take off and have this tremendous future, but I don't think he's unplayable. So he's not your typical 5th round guy. I think we've all established that. And then you look at where you're drafting going, do I really want to go up there when I do have all these other needs? Like, this is a tougher conversation than what we've had. Now, his season will finish up on Sunday or Saturday. They haven't made their decision. We probably will find out today. That's why you got to be listening to the Fan to find out when the Browns are going to play the Bengals. We don't know necessarily when they're going to play, at least not that I know of. Maybe there was some news and I don't know, and I'm going to be embarrassed by Keith coming up in like 3, 2, 1.
I thought they already scheduled the Saturday games.
Okay.
I thought the Saturday games are all important Saturday games.
I didn't know then, so maybe it'll be Sunday. So I was out with Pony and Muller for crying out loud. So they're always going to, try to put the boots to me. He has his one more game on Sunday. You said they already scheduled the Saturday? Okay,
yeah, Carolina, Tampa on Saturday,
Excellent.
Seattle,
Okay,
San Francisco. This has Cleveland at Cincinnati, 1 o'clock.
On Sunday?
On Sunday.
Okay, good. So Sunday is your final game. Thank you very much. After that, it's over. Depending on what the other 2 guys can do, that might make you start to go quarterback chasing and go crazy. And again, we got to think it's not just us and our opinion. It's also what you think the owner's going to do. And I know that the owner is desperate for a quarterback and is willing to move heaven and earth, obviously, as we've seen, to try to get somebody that he's convinced is going to be a great quarterback for his football team. So you also have to deal with that. Now, I don't want to tell people just get used to the idea, but yesterday, before that game, I'm getting texts and I'm thinking, hey, man, if you end up with a number 2 overall pick, because I did not think they were going to beat Pittsburgh, and I did not pick them to beat Pittsburgh. But if you're going to get the number 2 overall pick, you better be ready, because they might, even if you don't think Dante Moore's good, they're going to try to squeeze a round peg into a square hole or a square peg into a round hole. Now it's like, there's options there. And again, I think you start and finish with, guys, he's not unplayable. And it looks like I think he's taken little incremental steps. And I'm thinking, if he was able to do all this to get rid of bad habits, there's still some habits there that he's got to fix. But if he's able to do all this to get rid of bad habits in a short amount of time, then what could be if he has an entire offseason?
Yeah, as well, the thing is,
we have to keep open-minded.
Would it be the offseason as the guy, or would he be competing with somebody? Could there be, you also, people were watching Malik Willis and Tyler Huntley. Like, are those guys in play? Mac Jones, is he going to be in play?
They're all a conversation. Those guys are all a conversation.
There's so many teams that need quarterbacks, there's competition.
But I also think, I look at it in so many ways and go, man, he's been able to prove this much if he has a full 8 months to get ready. Yeah. And they got a full 8 months to watch him on tape. I understand that could be a disaster. But I can only go with what I know. If I got a full 8 months to get ready, could I bring him along, get ready for next year, and be able to do it? And also, when it comes to competition, do I really have any, like Mac Jones? I'll listen to Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones was set in a terrible spot from the word go in New England. And I think with good coaching, you're seeing that over in San Francisco. He's been significantly better. But I think a lot of other guys, I'm not entertaining this stupid Kyler Murray conversation. Let me underline stupid, and I never say that. Let me underline the stupid Tua Tagovailoa conversation. I will take Shedeur Sanders every single day of the week till my dying breath over those 2 guys. I do not want to waste any of my time, because I'm thinking, if we're going to do this and we're going to figure out whether or not he's our guy going into 2026, and we give 2026 he's the guy, I want to know, man. I want the best shot at it, and I don't want any time wasted. So if they go into the season and they go, well, we're going to have an open competition between Deshaun and Shedeur Sanders, who do I want to play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? It's Shedeur Sanders. If they were to bring in somebody else, I'd go, why are you bringing in one of these other guys? With the exception of 1 or 2 guys.
But, so are you open to a legitimate competition? Because I think there's a lot of Shedeur fans who are like, no competition. He's the guy. And I'm like, well, he hasn't played well enough to be the guy, right?
He hasn't, but again, who's he facing? if he's in a competition with Deshaun. Like, do you want to see Deshaun? I know you were at one point a Deshaun guy. That was 5 years ago.
I just
do
can't
you
imagine.
Want to see Deshaun over him?
Well,
would you be open-minded to Deshaun over him?
Listen, if it's an actual competition, then yeah, best man wins. Why would I be against that?
But how rare is it an actual competition? Once in the last umpteen years?
And furthermore, like what athletically, what does Deshaun look like? And I'm not talking about his production team's videos. I'm talking about when he's actually running around in the field. What made Deshaun, part of what made him so great was that he was so mobile that he could just take off and get those 40-yard runs. Yeah, well, I can't imagine that he can still do that. So if it's just him having to make throws from the pocket when he couldn't read defenses at all the last time we saw him. So, and then his mechanics went south. So if it's Mac Jones, is it an actual competition? That to me would you be open to that? Because, even for the Shedeur fanatics, you'd have to say, like, well, so many of them wanted him out of Cleveland 2 weeks ago.
I'll tell you this, though.
Would you even be open to him competing for a job
If you go get Mac Jones, I don't think it's an open competition.
Mac's
because
just a starter?
I think Mac's going to cost you picks. He's not going to cost you very much money. So I think San Francisco is going to turn around and go, listen, he's making like $4 million. You're going to give us significant assets for this guy. You want to make him your starter, then you're going to make him your starter, and this is how this is going to go. So this is this win. I had a blast yesterday. It does give you a lot to think about. This could have changed the course of history or the course of the future for the Cleveland Browns for a long time to come.
And this is just for the wider fan base as a whole, not just we love our Shedeur fans coming in on YouTube Live. I'm talking about the Browns fan base as a whole. Would you be okay with just saying this offseason, Shedeur is 100% the starter going into camp? It's his football team. Because I don't think he's played well enough for that at all.
I think a lot of them would say yes if